Hey guys, Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina with another live stream fishing show. That's right, it's Sunday night, y'all, and it is time for that live stream fishing show. Apologize for getting started here a little later than I should have, but at least we're live and ready to rock and roll. Unfortunately, hit a few snags tonight, so I'm a little later than I should be, but it is that time. It is Sunday night, and it is time for our live stream show. Gonna get started here very shortly. Just need a few moments to collect ourselves and get ready for that live stream show. Hopefully, you guys are ready. You got your drinks ready. You got your questions ready, and you're ready for another great live stream show with us here at Hubbard's Marina. We are going to get started very shortly, just getting the last finishing touches on our video here, and then we will get started on up. It has been a killer week of fishing, and we got some awesome photos to show you. So hopefully you guys are ready for that. Definitely gonna be some cool photos. Hopefully you guys are excited for our show tonight. I know I'm excited to show off a lot of these cool photos that we've gotten. Absolutely doing really well offshore right now with some nice fish and some really good catches that we are excited to show off. Plus, we've got some good stuff to talk about, some exciting stuff coming up here at Hubbard's Marina. So definitely looking forward to all that. And hopefully you are too. Gonna get started here in a few moments. We're gonna give away some free fishing trips and give away some free stuff and talk about fishing. So make sure you comment where you're watching from. Don't forget to share this video with your friends. Don't forget to like the video if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure you give the video a like for us. And then if you're watching on Facebook, don't forget to share this video with your friends on your favorite fishing club or your favorite fishing group. I'd appreciate it. We are going to get started here in a few moments. Don't forget, while we're getting ramped up here, you do have to comment at least one time to get entered to win here on the free fishing trips. So you navigate to Hubbard's Marina on Facebook. Once you're there on the Hubbard's Marina page, you'll be able to find that live video link. And then from there, you can go ahead and comment one time, and all you have to do is comment one time on the Hubbard's Marina live Facebook video stream, and that enters you for a chance to win that free trip. So make sure you comment at least one time in order to be eligible to win. And once we get this thing, I'm trying to remember, Facebook's constantly updating and making it more and more difficult. Marina live there Facebook we go video stream that will work. So once we get started here, guys, we're going to show you the photos of the fishing trips and show you what we've been catching, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the weather, show you some of the cool new exciting stuff we got here at Hubbard's Marina and all the great trips that we have coming up. And then we are gonna get into your questions. You can text your questions to that phone number in the upper right hand corner. That's how you make sure your questions get answered live during the show. That's 727-393-1947 number in the upper right hand corner. And with that, it is time to get rolling. So happy Sunday night, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. It's definitely been one of those days for us here at Hubbard's Marina. Blessed to be busy once again. People are back. Crowds are definitely back in Johns Pass. Today for our 39-hour trip that we had leaving, I literally had to walk around Johns Pass all the way to Gulf Boulevard and pull cars out of line so we could get them unloaded for our 39-hour trip. It was a great problem to have, but definitely a big change from what we've seen during the COVID-19 closures and all the craziness that we've gone through the last couple weeks. So it was a little crazy down here at Hubbard's Marina today, but we weathered the storm, and we're ready to rock and roll tonight for the live stream show. So hopefully you guys are ready for a great show. I appreciate the stars. Chris Fink, thanks for watching, buddy. And let's get into these photos, because you guys are gonna be severely impressed by the photos, especially those offshore photos. Thanks Demetrius Toller, Chris Presley, Kevin Wildheart for all those stars. Appreciate it, guys. So let's get into the photos, show you what we've been catching lately around here at Hubbard's Marina. The snook bite inshore is absolutely insane. We've been seeing a lot of these black drum. This is Lucas, who's been hanging around Hubbard's Marina for a while. Is a real cool dude. Him and his little brother Damon have been fishing with their friend, and they've been definitely catching tons of snook, a few redfish, and a few of these black drums. And Lucas, his big dream is to one day work at Hubbard's Marina. Pretty cool dude. And this is his little brother Damon. Really, really funny kid, and also well behaved. Pleasure having him around Hubbard's Marina. Love seeing the kids out fishing, especially when they're catching fish and having a good time. Nice big old redfish from our buddy Luke Simons at Salt Strong. Thanks Nigel for the stars. I appreciate it, buddy. Another nice redfish from the dock at Hubbard's Marina. There's a nice snook from the boardwalk. The snook bite at night inside the pass on the flare hawks has been absolutely incredible. Seeing some snook out on the grass flats and mangrove shorelines as well. Definitely some trout around, especially on those deeper grass flats. The trout bite has been pretty good. So seeing plenty of snook. We saw some nice redfish behind that crystal ball rain event, and then we saw those continued trout action as well. So definitely inshore fishing has been pretty good, and nearshore fishing can't forget about that. Nearshore fishing's been pretty good as well. Thank you, Bonnie Korniak, for those stars. Appreciate it. So nearshore, we've been seeing some of these red grouper. The red grouper bites definitely gotten better for us. Been catching those red grouper on our 10-hour all-day trip. Real excited about that red grouper bite. Anywhere from around 70 to about 100, 110 foot of water. Been seeing red grouper on the Hub private charters on our 10-hour all-day. Definitely some good red grouper bites. We've even seen the occasional red snapper on the Hub private charters, semi near shore, and the 10-hour all day has caught a handful of red snapper. Even though we don't target them, we're still seeing those hogfish. Hogfish bites definitely slowed down quite a bit, but we're still seeing a few of them. Thanks Nate Pittman and Gabe for those stars. I appreciate it, guys. Cheers to you all. And then nothing beats the kids. The kids out there fishing. Really cool to see the kids out there fishing and having a good time. This young angler was super pumped to catch these gray snapper and get out on the water with her parents. So really cool to see the kids out fishing as well. Let's see what else we got. So that was a near shore and inshore. Let's look at the Flying Hub 2 catches. The Flying Hub 2 has been out there doing really well on the fish, especially right behind the storm. Cristobal shook up the weather, shook up the Gulf, and the fishing was super hot right behind that bad weather. Here's Captain Garrett and Richie with one of their 12-hour Flying Hub 2 catches. The Flying Hub 2 has been doing really well. Those new Yamaha 425s have been doing incredible, really. We've been very blessed, and hopefully that trend will continue. Having a little bit of technical difficulties with the computer sending units, but Central Marine is a pleasure to work with, and they've been helping us out, so we should have that boat back up online in a matter of hours, which is nice. Captain Rich Golis took his first solo trip today, did really well out there on these red snapper. Thanks, Richard Blazek and Demario Perez, for those stars. But you can see here, guys, the Flying Hub 2 has been doing really well. I think this is one of my favorite photos that I've seen in a while. Captain Garrett, excuse me, and Captain Rich out there putting a hurting on some nice red snapper and some big gag grouper and red grouper. The red snapper bite has been steady. This is a 21-pound red snapper that Captain Joe got on his Flying Hub 2 private fishing charter. There's another shot of the same fish. Just absolute beast of a red snapper. There's that catch. 21-pound red snapper, almost a 30-pound gag. Definitely quite the haul on the Flying Hub 2. And as you can see, the photos just, they don't stop. Hopefully we'll have time for questions, because these are just Flying Hub 2 photos. We still have 39-hour trip photos, and we've had two 39-hour trips to go over as well. So just incredible fishing. Cristobal was not the best event. It really stunk to kind of have to close for a few days, essentially, because of weather. But luckily, behind that storm, that bad weather brought us a great bite of fish. Thanks, Estelle and Christine, for the stars. Appreciate it, ladies. All right, let's get into those 39-hour fish. The 39-hour trip has been doing really well as well on those grouper, snapper, and more. So here's some of those 39-hour fish. Just monster red snapper. Some big old grouper as well. I mean, as you can see from these photos, guys, this is all from the past 7 days. I mean, just buttloads of fish. It's been crazy out there. Each trip is more and more impressive. Big scamp grouper, some nice big gag grouper. I mean, typically in the summertime, we don't really have a good bite of gags. The summertime fishing is typically a little tougher on the gags because the water's so hot. But I think that storm really shook things up and got those gags excited. Plus, we've been fishing in deeper water, trying to catch those bigger red snapper. And those big red snapper in deep water are also hanging out with some of these monster gags. Look at that gag. Gorgeous fish. Thank you again, Christine, for some more stars. Appreciate it for sure. There's Jighead Ed with some of his grouper baits, catching those mackerel and bonita, trolling on the way out. Makes great bait for those grouper and definitely those red snapper as well. Cut bait once we're offshore. Big mangrove snapper too. Can't forget about the mangroves. There's my favorite fish. Nice red snapper, big gags, big mangroves. Definitely a lot of great fish catching at Hubbard's Marina. In the background, the rough weather on this last trip was supposed to be 3 foot or less. It was supposed to be 30% chance rain or less, supposed to be about 10 knot winds. It ended up being close to 4 foot, almost 6 foot at times, and it rained a lot. So pretty interesting to see that huge... what in the world is going on here? Oh, we're back. I think we cut out. Oh my gosh. Can you hear me? Test, test, test. It cut out on my end, which was strange, but it looks like you guys are still here. Oh man, what's going on? My technical ability on these live shows is not good. All right, so some people can still hear me. Looks like YouTube is still working. I don't know what's going on here. Facebook, can you hear me? Thanks, Lucas, for the stars. Everybody's saying they can still hear me. Weird. Just cut out on my end, but if you guys can still hear me, we're going to keep going. So some big gag grouper. As I was saying, the weather was definitely a little tough at first, but luckily it got a lot nicer and calmed down for us a little bit during the day, allowed us to push out deeper and catch some of these big gags. And on this recent 39-hour trip, that weather was definitely way worse than expected at the beginning of the trip, but it calmed down during the day, pushed out deeper, and luckily the fishing was really, really good behind that weather. The big gags bit well, ended up getting close to 30 head of grouper on that 39-hour trip, and I think that had a lot to do with that weather. Look at that. Keeper gags, keeper scamp, and red snapper all in one shot. Look at that beast of a fish. Absolutely gorgeous red snapper from that 39-hour trip. Some more gags, just kept on giving. And look at that one. John Martin, he's a tall gentleman. He's definitely a tall gentleman, and that's a big fish. So a big guy and a big old fish. So really, really cool to see that big gag. Thanks, Bill Corley, for the stars. Appreciate it. That's a big gag. That is a really big gag. And then finish it up with a nice big old red snapper for sure. And we finally got through all the photos. It took us almost 15 minutes instead of 5 minutes. Just absolutely incredible catch from the 39-hour trips to the 12-hour extreme trips to the private charters on the Hub and Flying Hub 2. Even the 10 hours been catching some really nice fish, and the half days obviously doing good with the heads and tails. So all around, it's been a really, really good week here at Hubbard's Marina for fishing, for people, and just overall happiness on the water. Thanks, Michael, for the stars. Appreciate it, buddy. As far as the weather is concerned, we'll pop over to the website. The weather is looking spectacular. Weather is looking spectacular. Under the Fishing Trips tab, you can scroll down to the Weather Links page. On our Weather Links page, you can find those wind finder forecasts. And I'm going to skip right to the offshore forecast because it's pretty much all the same. It looks really, really good weather-wise. And hopefully that trend will continue as well. Just as far as the eye can see, pretty much less than 1 foot, almost no chance of rain. So hopefully the weatherman got that right, and hopefully it will continue down that trend because we're excited for some more great red snapper catching and hopefully not so much fishing because it's been really, really good, and hopefully that trend will continue. So we got great weather for it. One thing that I did want to cover with you is I wanted to show off our new page, our new link that our friends at Salt Strong helped us create. So I'm going to open this up and show this to you guys. Where is it? It opened on the wrong page. There we go. So we'll throw this on the screen. So Salt Strong created this new link. It's called How to Vent and Descend Red Snapper. I'm going to pop it into the comments so you guys can save it for later and check it out after the show, but we're going to read through it here real quick live during the show. The main reason for this page that I worked with Salt Strong to create, and the good people at Salt Strong were willing to create for me. The whole idea behind this page is to make sure that we're doing the best we can to preserve the fishery, preserve the species offshore. Now with red snapper season open, we have so many people going out there and going fishing that we want to make sure we do everything in our power to make sure those species offshore survive, to get big enough for us to take home, and that we have plenty of fish out there in offshore waters. So it's so important to make sure you take care of your fish. So we'll play the video first. We're not going to read through the whole page. Don't worry. I'm not going to bore you that much. We can talk about it. We don't have to read through it. Thanks, Michael, for more stars, and Justin Bendis. Appreciate it, guys. Let's start this video up. Captain Dylan Hubbard here. Hey, Salt Strong. This is Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina. And real quickly, I wanted to talk about venting and descending fish and barotrauma as a whole. Right now, we are on the doorstep. Today is the opening day of private recreational red snapper. That runs from today, June 11th, all the way through July 25th. So we're excited about this recreational private red snapper season here in the state of Florida, but across all 5 Gulf states, there's private recreational red snapper seasons opening up, and this applies to the entire Gulf of Mexico and even over on the Atlantic east coast of Florida. It's so important for all of us when we're heading offshore fishing to make sure that you're taking care of the fish. What drives me crazy, makes me super upset, is to see someone holding the photo or holding a big red snapper up in a photo, and behind them you see 10, 15, 20 dead floating fish on the surface. That's crap, and hopefully it makes you as upset as it makes me. Inshore, we're all so careful to coddle our snook and support their bellies and make sure our hands are wet before we hold that trout, and people even go so far as to hold their breath to make sure their trout's not out of the water too long. Those same people will go offshore and let 10 fish float away from their boat dead. And I don't get the disconnect. So real quickly, we want to go over how you can make sure when you go offshore that you're being as good as you are inshore too. Because we all care about this fishery. We all want the most access possible to the most amount of fishing days to go catch these fish and harvest them. That's key. However, when you go out there and you're harvesting 2 red snapper or 1 red snapper, depending on East Coast or Gulf, when you harvest those fish, a lot of times you have to let some fish go. Either you filled your bag limit, or when the season's not open, you gotta let them go, or when they're too small, you gotta let them go. And those fish go floating off. Those fish count towards our quota. They are taken out of our quota, and our seasons get shorter based on what's called discard mortality. And we can help, you can help to spread education and awareness to lower discard mortality. And the way you do that is really easy. All you have to do is vent or descend your fish. Now, descending devices are easiest to use. If you're watching this video like, hey, what's Barotrauma? I don't fish offshore a lot. Get a descending device. It's easiest to use, super simple. You hook the fish up, you send him down, he's good to go. He's gonna live another day. A venting tool is a lot more tricky. It takes more of an experienced hand and an experienced anglers to properly vent a fish, because you gotta know where to place it and you gotta make sure that you don't go too deeply. So we'll cover both. Descending devices, you can purchase them. They range in price anywhere from $5, $10, $15 up to a really nice fancy one like a Sequelizer for $65, $70, $80 depending on what model you get. Sequelizers are definitely the high-end, really nice ones, super easy to use, but you can get it something like an inverted hook, or you could take an old milk crate and stash some lead weight onto the outer rim of it and turn that into a descending device. So you can make your own descending device, you can buy a fancy one. There's tons of options out there. And if you check out the links in the body of this post, you'll find more information about the Fishing for Our Future site that the Gulf of Mexico Fishery Management Council put out. You could just Google Fishing for Our Future Gulf Council and you'll find that website. There's a ton of videos based on what state you're in that gives you tons of information on descending devices, venting, and more. So definitely check out Fishing for Our Future. It'll teach you more about how to use all the different brands of descending devices. Now, venting is really easy. You take a device, make sure that you hit the fish in the right spot, which is right underneath the pectoral fin, towards the base of that pectoral fin, and you put that venting tool in there just about maybe a 1/4 inch down. You want to make sure you don't poke the fish or stab the fish too deeply. And that's the biggest mistake I see. Most venting tools have a needle on them that are 2-3 inch long. You don't need to go into the fish, but maybe a 1/4 inch. So you've got to be careful. I use my thumb and forefinger as a guide to make sure I don't stick that needle or venting tool too far into the fish, because the whole idea is you're not trying to pierce any organs. You're just trying to release the pressure. Barotrauma is what is causing the need for descending devices or venting tools. And barotrauma can occur at any depth out there beyond around 70 to 90 foot in the warmer weather months. And then in the cooler months, around 90 to about 110 foot is when we run into barotrauma. And you'll know when the fish has barotrauma, because a lot of times he's going to have his swim bladder or stomach extending out of his mouth, or his scales are going to be poked out, or he's going to be all blowed up from pressure. What it is when you reel a fish up from the bottom quickly, his gas inside his body will expand and it can't escape. So you have to let that gas escape with a venting tool, or you take a descending device and send that fish down on a weighted device to let him recompress naturally. Those are the two options to mitigate barotrauma and discard mortality, is a venting tool or descending device. And that is what barotrauma is it's simply just a buildup of gas. What I like to do is on my first fishing spot, to find out if I need to vent or descend, I'll throw the first fish into the water close to the boat. If it floats away and it can't get down, I know for the rest of the day, every fish that I release must be vented or descended. But if you're fishing 20, 30 foot of water and you throw your first fish in the water and he swims right to the bottom, super healthy, you know you don't have to vent or descend your fish at that fishing depth all day long. So use that rule of thumb. Your first spot, toss one in close to the boat so you can retrieve it if it can't get down, and then you know the rest of the day you have to vent or descend. Or if he can swim down healthy, you know you don't have to vent or descend the rest of the day. So make sure you spread awareness. Make sure everybody who you're going out fishing with knows they have to vent or descend a fish. Don't let fish go floating away from your boat. It's a waste of the resource. It's a waste of our fishery, and it's pathetic. It's sad to see. So don't let it happen. If it does happen, use it as a teachable moment to train and educate that angler on how to be a better angler, to take care of our resource, give us more access, and slowly we're going to lower these discard mortalities and have longer fishing seasons. Remember, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too busy. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure you get a venting tool or descending device before your next offshore adventure, and enjoy this short red snapper season. Hopefully everybody gets plenty of them out there. Tight lines.
Dude, I was sweaty watching that. I was sweaty filming that, and I was sweaty watching it. It makes me hot. Got to make sure you have your venting tool. And apparently some people on YouTube think it's funny to start a venting tool drinking game. Every time I say vent, you have to drink. So we're going to vent the rest of this show, and make sure you have your venting tools. You guys are screwed. With that, I think it's time to get into the questions. We talked about the weather. We talked about that new link. I did pop that link into the comments for you guys. Hopefully you get a chance to check it out. If you didn't see it in the comments, you can always shoot me a text to that number in the upper right-hand corner, and I'll send you the link personally. It's real important that we all take a peek at that link. That has more than just that video. That video is kind of the hook to get you a little bit motivated to hopefully check it out a little bit more deeply, but we all need to pass that message along to our fellow anglers. I want to give a shout out to all the people that gave me stars while we were watching that video. Joe, Gabe, Michael, and Jason Huffman. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for the support. With that, I think it's time to give away our first free fishing trip of the night. We are going to give away a free 10-hour all day for 2 guests. Right now, we are currently sitting at about 500 live viewers between Facebook and YouTube. A little bit shy of 500, but I'm a fisherman. I like to round up. I think we were at 500 until I went on my venting tool rant. But let's see who won a free 5-hour half day for 2 guests. 5-hour half. Holy moly. Thank you, Trent Simmons. 2,000 stars. I appreciate it, buddy. Am I reading that right? That says 2,000. I appreciate it, Trent. Thanks, buddy. So 5-hour half day for 2. Let's see who won a free 5-hour half day for 2. Kristen Boyer. Can't wait to get back out in the water. Well, Kristen, you just won a chance to get it back out there on the water for free. 5-hour half day for 2 guests to Kristen Boyer. Now remember, in order to win that free trip, you do have to text that number in the upper right hand corner within a couple minutes to prove that you are watching live, and you do have to send us your home address so we can send you out that free gift certificate. So if you're picked as one of the lucky winners tonight, if I call your name, if you see your name come up on the screen, gotta text that number in the upper right hand corner, your home address, in a few minutes. That way we can prove that you were watching live, and you claim your trip by texting that number, your home address, and I'll send you out that certificate to your house. So thank you for watching, and don't forget to vent your fish. This is fun. I like the venting tool drinking game. Whoever came up with that, I'm going to have to read back in the comments and see who that was, because I think you won a free trip too. All right, let's get back into this show and answer some questions. So questions, let's see. Oh, we got a lot of questions built up here during the show. Let's see here. Gotta find the start of the question. What's the best fishing descending device, and how much would it cost? See, I like that. We get right back into the venting tool questions. Someone's going to get hammered if they're playing the venting tool drinking game right now. But the best fishing descending device kind of depends on your budget. For me, I think the best descending device on the market, easiest to use. I wish I had mine handy. It's in my truck, in my tackle bag. Yeah, it's in my truck. That descending device that I really like is a sequelizer. It's super fancy. You can set it to the depth you want to release at. So if, for example, you're fishing a little shallower, it works well because you don't have to drop that fish all the way to the bottom. If you're fishing a little deeper, it still works well because you're able to adjust the depth on that descending device, on that sequelizer. So sequelizer is kind of like the fancy one, and it works really well. I like them a lot, and it's easy to use. So sequelizer, I would say, is the most popular, most well-known, fanciest option. But an inverted hook is super cheap. You can get them for a couple bucks. You just add a weight to them. Now, a milk crate, you can literally take a milk crate and add some old tire irons to it and get it for free. So there's a bunch of descending devices. The best way to find a bunch of different options is if you go to Google and just type in fishing for our future Gulf Council. Look, it came right up in my search history because I search it a lot. Fishing for Our Future Gulf Council. That takes you to the Fishing for Our Future page. I'm actually blessed to be the chair of the Outreach and Education Committee for the Gulf of Mexico Fishery Management Council. So this website's kind of my job to promote. So hopefully I'm doing a good job of that. But check out the Fishing for Our Future page. Just, again, Google Fishing for Our Future Gulf Council, and might as well drop that link into the comments for you guys to make it easy. So I'll do that here real quick. I forget I can drop it into the comments. Someone said, thanks a lot for the venting tool drinking game. I'm already drunk. That's funny. So once you're on the Fishing for Our Future page, you can click Florida, and it's going to show you a bunch of brochures to give you more information on barotrauma and how it affects and the different ways you can mitigate barotrauma and discard mortality. But then down here, there's a bunch of cool videos. So the sequelizer fish descender, we'll watch this real quick. I don't think, yeah, it's only 2 minutes.
We're here today to talk a little bit about the use of descending devices, and today we're going to demonstrate how you set up to use one in particular called the sequelizer. The sequelizer is a bit unique because it operates on a pressure sensor, and there's an adjustment here, and you can set for multiple depths. And this device is designed to take your fish down to depth and release the fish automatically because the pressure sensor will pop at a designated depth. An easy way to set this up, there are multiple ways, but an easy way is just to take a sizable lead, something between 1 and 2.5 pounds. Simply tie any knot that you tie works. That's just a basic fisherman's knot. Make a secure knot with your lead. Come up the line. This is not the only way to do it, but this is an easy way to do it. And pull a loop and tie what they call a figure 8 knot, which is 2 times around, and it just makes a secure loop that won't slip. The next thing you want to do is take the clip of the sequelizer, which comes with this type of clip, and simply hook the line through the clip, and you've got a secure connection. And keep in mind, when you're using a descending device, the idea is to work quickly. The longer the fish is out of the water, the lower its chances of survival. So you really want to get this fish clipped on.
And that was key. What he just said was key. So in order to increase the rate of survival on these fish, you have to get it up from the bottom quickly, get it unhooked quickly, and get it back in the water quickly. The longer that fish sits on your hook, struggling against the hook, the more barotrauma effect it's going to see. The longer that fish sits at the surface at what they call zero depth being sea level, the more barotrauma effect it's going to see. And if you drop it onto a hot deck in the middle of the frickin' summer, guess what? It's going to see a lot of barotrauma effects, and the chance of survival is exponentially decreased. So you got to get it up quickly, got to get it off the hook quickly, got to get it back in the water quickly. So if you're good with a venting tool, that works well, but you have to be so careful with a venting tool not to penetrate that fish too deeply. Whereas a descending device is super easy. Once you get it rigged properly, you got enough weight on it, it's super easy. So I'll let this video finish. Sorry for interrupting.
On here and sent down in 15 to 20 seconds. A little bit about the rod. You're going to be reeling up sizable lead, so you don't want to put this on a spinning rod or a small conventional rod. You need a big heavy rod that you can easily reel up this lead. In terms of hooking the fish on the sequelizer, this has a mouth grip, and it functions like this. You open the jaws and you put the fish on and close the jaws securely.
Take them.
We'll put one on. We've got a vermilion snapper here for demonstration. So you'll take
All right,
the
we're not
fish,
gonna watch too
just
much
get on
of
the
this.
lower jaw and clip the
FWC
fish
does a
on.
great job, but sometimes it's a little monotone. So basically, the long story of the short is descending devices are easy to use. If you don't know how to vent, if you're not on one of our boats, a descending device works really well because it's easy to use. It's kind of almost so easy you can't mess it up. A venting tool works really well, but I love how many times I've said venting tool. If anybody, this venting tool drinking game is really out of hand. But a venting tool works really well, but the problem with it is you have to be really good with a venting tool because you have to make sure that you're not penetrating that fish too deeply. So a lot of times I'll use my thumb and forefinger on my venting tool to protect that fish from getting poked with that venting tool too deeply, because if you just stick that needle or sharp venting tool device in too deeply, it can poke through that skin and poke into those internal organs. So you have to be really careful with a venting tool and make sure that it's not going too deep into that fish. You just want to break the skin, maybe penetrate a 1/4 inch to let that air escape. And that's how a venting tool works well. So in the proper hands, a venting tool works really, oh, I'm cracking myself up. A venting tool will work really well in proper hands, but a descending device is definitely the easiest to use. And I owe you guys a bunch of drinks on that one. So as far as the best descending device, simple answer, in my opinion, is probably sequelizer. What's the appropriate age for an extreme trip? So on our 12-hour extreme, on our 39-hour trips, I would definitely say the best age is probably 13 years and up. That's kind of our age limit for those specialty trips. So our 12-hour extreme, 39 hours, 44 hours, they're considered our specialty trips, and they're for advanced anglers, and we really want kids to be 13 years and up. So, and the reason for that is it's kind of a draconian age set. I mean, I've seen 9-year-old kids. I mean, I remember when I was 9 years old, I was a big kid, and 9 years old for me was a lot different than 13 years old for other kids, you know. So That's kind of our our loose rule of thumb is 13 years. But if your kid is someone who grew up fishing on boats and has done a lot of long range trips, and they're a taller, bigger kid, they might be able to handle an extreme trip. But on a 12-hour extreme trip, that railing height is 48, 50 inches. So you have to be a tall individual to be able to see over the rail and hold a fishing rod. And we're going into deep water targeting big fish. And if your kid is not strong and able, then he's going to get rocked up. He's not going to catch fish. He's going to break off, and he's going to shut the bite down for everybody else on the boat. So it's not going to be a positive experience for your child or those around them. And then it kind of disintegrates into a bad experience for everybody. So definitely, I would suggest starting slowly. If you want to take a kid out fishing, start with the half day. Do a couple half days, do a couple 10 hours, maybe do a 12-hour night or two, maybe try a 12-hour extreme after that. So you don't want to jump right to a 12-hour extreme or 39-hour trip with your kid. One of the biggest things I worry about is if you jump to one of those advanced angler trips and they have a bad experience, you've burnt them out. At that point, they're not going to want to get back out in the boat with you. So especially a 39-hour trip, you put a kid who doesn't fish offshore a lot on a 39-hour trip and they get seasick. After 39 hours seasick on a boat, you're not going to get them back out on a fishing trip anytime soon. So definitely want to start slowly and kind of acclimate someone to offshore fishing before you just push them into the deep end with an advanced angler's trip. I want a chance to win free fishing trips, but I don't have Facebook. So unfortunately, YouTube makes it really tricky. The only time we've been able to give away free trips on YouTube is when I had someone literally watching the show and hand typing up names, and it was a really big disaster, unfortunately. So the only way that really works is if you're on Facebook, and I know a few people have just created a really simple Facebook page to comment on the live show to get entered to have a chance to win, because you don't even have to put a photo. You don't even have to use your real name on Facebook. You can make up a fake name. You don't have to put a photo. All you have to do is have an account. You need an email and you need a little bit of information like a name, and you can make a Facebook account to watch the show and get a chance to enter to win. I'm giving away free stuff, so you do have to work a little bit for it, unfortunately, and I apologize. And you can watch on YouTube. A lot of people enjoy watching on YouTube over Facebook. All you have to do is comment one time on the Facebook stream in order to be eligible to win. But once you comment once, you can pop over to YouTube, because keep in mind that it doesn't matter if you comment one time or you comment 1,000 times on Facebook, you still have the same chance at winning. Kind of like if you bring a venting tool. Just throwing that back in there. Does the speed of your descent play an important part whether your leader gets all tangled up on the way down? That's a good question. So the speed of your descent doesn't necessarily play a part in whether your leader gets tangled on the way down as much as it does having the proper length top shot and hooking your bait properly and having the proper rig to begin with. So real important if you're fishing with braid that you have a long top shot, long enough to where your braided line isn't going to tangle with your leader. So typically about 1/3 to 2/3 of your line in the water should be top shot. So if you're fishing in 100 foot of water, 30 to 60 feet of line should be top shot, monofilament or fluorocarbon top shot. Thank you, Patrick Hong, for that, for those stars. I appreciate it. So if you're using top shot, that's going to prevent your braid from tangling around your leader. And then the other important thing is making sure you're hooking your bait properly so it's not spinning. If your bait's going to spin on the way to bottom, it doesn't matter how slowly you drop to bottom, you're still going to get hung up. Most people that are having problems getting tangled up as they drop to bottom, it's either they're fishing braid straight to their swivel and they don't have a top shot, or they're not hooking their bait properly and it's spinning on the way to the bottom. But if you've done a top shot, if your bait's not spinning, then the other thing would be to slow your descent, because every now and again you do have to slow your descent. You can't just let it rocket to bottom, especially if you're fishing in deeper water. You do have to slow your descent occasionally to make it down to the bottom and be more natural once you approach the bottom. So yes and no to that question. Next question is, let's see here. How young can fishermen be and how long are fishing trips? Well, 5-hour trips. Pretty much any level experienced angler in any age is welcome. I mean, I've literally seen one of our good friends that goes fishing with us every year. Their family comes out with us every year from Illinois, and the daughter of the mother had just recently had a child, and she was literally still nursing her infant child on a 5-hour trip while catching fish. So literally any age, experience level angler will work on a 5-hour half-day trip. I've taken my son out. He's not even 10 months old, and he's been out in the boat in half-day territory a few times. So definitely any age is good on a 5-hour half-day. But longer trips definitely want to be a little bit more experienced. How do you get tunas when dropping on a 39-hour trip? So most of the time on a 39-hour trip to catch tuna, we're flatlining for them, we're vertical jigging for them, or you're trolling for them. Those are kind of the three ways to target them on a 39-hour trip. Flatlines, vertical jigs, or trolling. Occasionally we'll catch them when knocker rigging for snapper on a bycatch basis, but most of the time it's going to be vertical jigging for them, flatlining, or trolling. Thanks, David Pruitt, for the stars. Appreciate it, buddy. I'm glad you enjoyed your 39-hour trip this weekend. It was a great time having you and your buddies join. Let's see here. What's the next question? Best all-around rod and reel for the 39-hour if I just had to bring one set. In my opinion, I have too many rods and reels. Out of all my rods and reels, out of everything I've ever owned, from Harringtons to Shimano's to Daiwas to Penns, my favorite rod and reel, hands down, was that custom Bull Bay Hubbard's Marina rod. That Bull Bay rods let me go into their shop and custom build for myself and for our anglers at Hubbard's Marina. Hands down my favorite rod, because I custom built it myself to the way I like fishing. So that is my favorite rod, the Bull Bay Hubbard's Marina rod. Probably in 30 to 80 would be the best all around, because I can catch anything from a gag grouper all the way down to a yellowtail snapper and everything in between. And then I slap a Daiwa Saltiga LD50 on it. It's my hands down my favorite reel. Accurate, Avet, Shimano, Talica, they all make great products. I like accurate reels. I like the Shimano Talica. I love the Shimano Talica. Let me rephrase that. I love the accurate, the accurate 500 series. There's other great reels on the market, but for the price and for the value and the strength, I don't think you can beat the Daiwa Saltiga LD50. It's $4.99, which is a steep price, but keep in mind, it's got 40 pounds of drag. It's all one solid metal frame. It's an independent, free-floating, super smooth reel. So you got a reel that can handle a big red snapper, even a medium-sized gag, but it's also good enough to catch a small little mangrove snapper too, and pretty much everything in between. So it's a really good all-around reel. It almost replaces 2 or 3 other rods because it's got that 2-speed setup. So the Daiwa Saltiga is my favorite for that reason. It is steep, it's $4.99, but a Shimano Talica 16, which it's comparable to, a Shimano Talica 16 is almost $750. So literally $350 more for the same product. But because it's a Daiwa product, it's cheaper and, in my opinion, a little bit better. So great option. And Accurate's not that much more expensive than Daiwa, and it's a really good product too, but it's still more expensive. And I think the Daiwa Saltiga product is good. Not sponsored by Daiwa. I just like fishing with it, and I like nice stuff, but I'm not going to pay $300 more for it because it says Shimano on it. That's a little ridiculous. But nothing against Shimano Talicas. If that's my Father's Day gift, I mean, I'll fish with it. But it's not. It's not. Let's see. Best all-around rod and reel for the 39-hour... Oh, I just read that question. The venting tool game is getting to me. How are the trips going along with the COVID-19 precautions being taken? Are people seeming to still enjoy themselves with social distancing and universal precautions? I think everything's going really well. I mean, now we're in phase 2, social distancing isn't required when we're outside. We're in groups of 50 or less. So we're able to take up to 50 people, no social distancing requirements outside. Inside our main cabin, there's still social distancing requirements. And if you're interested in what we're doing as far as the virus is concerned, you can go to the home page of our website, hubbardsmarina.com. We've got this beautiful green banner that takes you to the COVID-19 operating policy and procedures pages, and those change based on federal and state and county announcements. So right now we're in phase 2, which allows 50 passengers. So on our 39-hour trips, our 12-hour extreme trips, our 44-hour trips, our 12-hour night trips, we're all back to normal capacity. But on some trips, like our half-day trips, our dolphin cruises, we're still limited in capacity. So kind of back to normal a little bit, not back to normal in other ways. So it kind of depends on the trip for sure. But definitely excited to be able to carry 50 passengers again. And I would say overall people are enjoying the trips despite the whole virus situation and the changes that we've had to make. Since opening May 4th, we have gone through many iterations of state, federal, and county regulations. And it's constantly a challenge to adapt to an ever-changing landscape, but I think we've done a pretty good job of it. In addition to making weather-wise decisions, what else makes Hubbard's Marina fleet so safe? Good question, and I like the embedded compliment in there. Thank you. I would say what makes Hubbard's Marina fleet so safe is our people. Our people. It comes down to our people. I mean, I hope that I do a good job myself in managing things and advertising things and operating the company, but I couldn't do what I do without our team, and it boils down to the people. We are blessed with the most incredible team to grace the Gulf of Mexico with their presence. I mean, from our office staff to our reservations team to our dock masters to our bait guy to our captain's crew and everybody in between. We have an incredible team at Hubbard's Marina, and I believe that is entirely what makes us so safe. From our experienced captains to our experienced crew and everyone in between. So a lot of experience, a lot of practice, and a lot of repetition, I would say, is what makes Hubbard's Marina more safe, or I guess how you post what makes Hubbard's Marina fleet so safe is our team, our people, and our experience. We've been doing this. Our family business has been operating in local water since 1928. Nearly 100 years and 4 generations we've been at it hard. So definitely safe for that reason, and because we all have venting tools. Threw that back in there. Someone should be doing a shot somewhere. What is your experience with using things like using scents like Procure? Might it help offshore? I told a story a few live shows back about our experience with things like Procure. We had some clam juice and it floated around the marina, and we ended up throwing it in each other's boots, and I think we poured it on someone's car at one point. and it was terrible. So I will never, ever again in my life purchase anything like Procure, any other scent maker for my crew and captains, because we have a great team, but we also really enjoy pulling each other's chain and having a good time at work. And my crew can't be trusted with something like Procure or clam juice, because last time it was a really bad experience for us all, and it lasted way too long. So no more Procure, but we've had experience with it, and I would definitely probably say on a smaller boat, something like that might work, but you don't necessarily need it on a party boat. Because the big difference between a party boat and those smaller charters is, for example, on a small private charter boat like the Hub or Flying Hub 2, if we got 6 anglers and we're fishing in shallow water, I might use some chum. But on a big party boat, when we got 20, 30, 40 lines in the water, that's 20, 30, or 40 baits going to bottom. Each one of those baits is releasing scent. Each one of those baits get hit by a snapper and get broke up and release more scents. So for party boat fishing, enough baits in the water is going to be a good enough chum. For smaller charter boats and private boats, when there's not a lot of baits in the water, something like Procure might work for you. And aquatic nutrition sport fishing chums is what we use for our chumming needs on our smaller charter boats. Things like their Super Shrimps product is what I'd recommend for hog fishing. They have the Bloodstream product, great for shark fishing. They have Snapper Up, which is great for shallow water snapper fishing like in the Keys on the reefs. Aquatic nutrition sport fishing chums definitely works well. Let's see here. Other than keeping your feet dry and a good grip, what are advantages to white rubber fishing boots? That's it. You covered it. Keep your feet dry and good grip. Those are the only 2 advantages to white weather boots or white rubber boots when on a fishing trip. I personally hate white rubber boots. Used to wear them as a kid because that's pretty much all they had available. Nowadays, Extra Tough, Grundens, they both make really good products. I'm more partial to Extra Tough myself, but Grundens makes really good products too. Extra Tough was really, really good back a couple years ago, but then they got super popular, and I think they kind of outsourced a lot of their products. So Extra Tough hasn't been lasting as long for us. But if you use them every day, they don't last so long. But if you don't use them every day, Extra Tough, in my opinion, is a superior product. If you use them every day, Grundens, definitely their product holds up a little bit better in the long run. But that's our experience. Some good questions tonight. The 12-hour extreme, what is the best gear to take? It kind of depends on the time of year. Right now with red snapper and gag grouper open, I would say a venting tool is important to take on any long range deep water trip. But I would say this time of year for red snapper, gag grouper, I would bring like a 6/0 equivalent reel, something with 40 to 45 pounds of drag, 60 to 80 pound test on it, and then something with a bigger, more beefy setup, something with 45, 50, even 55 pounds of drag, something with a 80 to 100 pound test. That's going to be the best option. So you have kind of your middle of the road 60 to 80 pound test setup, and then something in the 80 to 100 pound range for bigger grouper. This time of year with red snapper and gag grouper open for the extreme trip. Let's go ahead. I think it's time to give away another free trip. We got to give away a 10-hour all day for 2 guests. We'll throw in a free venting tool with this 10-hour all day for 2 guests. I just wanted to say it again. So, free 10-hour all-day trip for 2 guests and a free venting tool. Let's see who won. Michael Sewell from Riverview, Florida, local. Nice to see some locals winning. So, Michael, don't forget to comment where you're watching from, or don't forget to text up here in that right hand corner, your home address. That's how you claim your free trip, and you comment where you're watching from to get entered to win, is what I was trying to say earlier. All right, so let's see some more questions here. We only got a few more minutes before we wrap up the show. Good evening. Looking to take a 10-hour trip with five family members. Can you talk about availability in the near future? Right now, we are pretty busy with our busy time of the year. We are booked up already for Tuesday's 10-hour trip, but we got plenty of room Thursday. And basically all the trips are filling a day or two in advance, so you want to call us earlier. We're still limiting capacity on some of those trips, so you want to definitely call early and make your reservation for sure. It's important to make those early this time of year. I'm fishing out of Paso Grill and I want to find some red snapper and gag grouper. Any suggestion for finding areas? I've been good at catching snook and gags around the Skyway, but I want to step up my game offshore. So as far as finding areas, the best bet is definitely to grab something like one of those top spots charts, something that's going to give you some public numbers out there in deeper water, like on the pipeline, around the middle grounds. There's some public numbers on a top spots chart. We carry those in our office. They're on the counter next to the venting tools, and the top spots chart is going to give you some public numbers and some public areas to run to. And then as you run to those areas, you got to slow down when you're close and make sure that you start looking at that bottom machine. And a lot of times you can find ledges, potholes, hard bottom around those public areas that are going to be holding fish. So definitely a good way to start was with those public numbers. Thanks, Randy Cassell, for the stars. I appreciate it, buddy. But as far as red snapper is concerned, you can start to find them around 100 to 120 foot. You can find them more consistently and larger once you get to about 140 to 160 for sure. Let's see here. Thanks for all your help. My question is, as the season progresses, how do you feel fishing pressure affects the bite of red snapper? That's a good question. I mean, near shore and shallower water, we definitely see it more influentially. In around 100 to about 120 foot of water, we see a big decrease in the amount of bites and the amount of red snapper later in the season. But once we get to 150, 170 foot of water, that area doesn't slow down as quickly. And I would say once you're closer to 200 foot of water, we really don't see that big of a dip in fishing, in fish catching, if you will, towards later parts of the season. But it kind of depends on the year, and it kind of depends on the bite. Last year, we didn't really see a big dip on our 12-hour extreme or 39-hour trips, even towards the end of season. We definitely sometimes saw a little bit harder bite, but that just mostly depended on the weather. Even towards the end of last season, we had a really good bite of fish in deep water. So the deeper you go, the more consistent they are, the bigger they are. Thanks, David Watson, for the support and stars. Appreciate it. Do you fillet a hogfish just the same as other fish? Yeah, I mean, you can essentially fillet a hogfish similar to other species. I fillet them a little bit more deliberately, like I would a really nice grouper, just to make sure I get all that meat off the fish. But yeah, you can essentially fillet a hogfish the same way you would fillet a grouper or any other species of fish. But I typically, instead of just cutting down the backbone, I'll cut from the top and then cut from the bottom, making sure I miss as little meat as possible for sure. Got to use your venting tools on those fish too. Let's see here. What's the next question? I think we got time for one or two more. We did start the show late, so we are going to run late. When we do our 12-hour trip on the 28th, will we need to use a venting tool on our own fish, or will you guys do it for us? So on our 12-hour extreme trip, there's only 16 anglers So our crew and captain really keeps up with those fish really carefully. So you don't need a venting tool as much on a 12-hour extreme trip as you would on, say, a 39-hour trip. Now, if you want to bring your venting tool on a 12-hour extreme trip, it definitely doesn't hurt. So you can learn how to get more acquainted and used to using a venting tool. But on a 39-hour or 44-hour trip, it's definitely more mandatory and more useful because there's only 2 crew members and a lot more anglers. Thanks, Rhonda, for the support. I appreciate it. And the stars. Up to how many people can go on a private charter? Just 6? Nope. At Hubbard's Marina, we're the original and longest running, and we have the largest fleet of U.S. Coast Guard inspected private charter vessels in the area. So we have multiple boats that can take more than 6 passengers on a private charter. So the Hub can take 7 to 14. The Flying Hub 2 can take 7 to 16 or even up to 20 on a private fishing charter. So definitely a lot of options, more than 6 people at Hubbard's Marina. That's what we specialize in, taking 7, 10, 18, 20 people out on private fishing charters on smaller, faster boats. Anybody can take a charter of 1 person, 2 people, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. But in order to take that 7th person on a private fishing charter, you have to have a U.S. Coast Guard inspected vessel, which means it's custom built to U.S. Coast Guard specifications. It's got a stability test to U.S. Coast Guard specifications. It's got motors and power and wiring to U.S. Coast Guard specs. There's a ton of paperwork and red tape, and it's really, really crazy the steps and hoops you have to jump through to be U.S. Coast Guard inspected and to carry 7 passengers or more offshore. So we work really hard to be able to be that large fleet of U.S. Coast Guard inspected vessels, but it's very difficult, and you have to be a 100-ton U.S. Coast Guard inspected or U.S. Oh man, I can't think straight. Too many venting tools. You have to be a 100-ton master captain to be able to operate a inspected vessel. So to operate a 6-pack or 6-person or less private charter, you could literally go out and buy a boat this weekend off the showroom floor, and that would work for a 6-pack charter. And then you go out and get your 6-pack permit, which takes about 700 hours experience and a Coast Guard test. And then random drug screening, you have to have insurance, you have to get your federal permits, so it's not that easy. But to be U.S. Coast Guard inspected, you not only have to have random drug screenings, you have to take the 6-pack U.S. Coast Guard inspected or U.S. Coast Guard uninspected passenger vessel class, but then you have to take the 100-ton class, pass the 100-ton test, you have to be random drug test, and then you have to custom build your boat to U.S. Coast Guard specifications, get a stability letter, get all that stuff in, and then on top of that, you got to get your federal permits and all the other insurance and all that good stuff. So it's definitely difficult, but we have plenty of multi-passenger fishing charters at Hubbard's Marina. Is the current in the offshore Gulf of Mexico a factor in planning or just a factor inshore? How do you find offshore currents, and is it a factor? So that was from someone out of Venice, Florida. I thought it was Venice, Louisiana. I was going to say it was more of a factor in your area. But for us here in Central West Florida, and especially for us as charter boat captains, we're going fishing all the time. We have to go fishing. People want to go fishing. They want to get out no matter what day it is or what the current's doing. So we go out fishing no matter what. Now, if you're more of a sport fisherman, if you're more of a tournament fisherman, if you're more of a leisure weekend warrior, yeah, currents can take a little bit into planning, and you can look at things like rip charts. That's what I subscribe to. It works really well. I'll see if I can pull it up for you. It's expensive though. I think it cost me like $300 a year or something. But Rip Charts is pretty cool. Let's see if I can even log in. Nope, that's on my work computer. and it's on my boat computer. It's not on my home computer, so it's going to take me too long to log in. But long story short, yeah, there is systems out there where you can see offshore currents, see their patterns and stuff like that. But real-time offshore currents is impossible. It's not like inshore fishing. So we don't necessarily take offshore currents into effect as much when planning trips, because you can't get a live feed like you can on them inshore. It's not scheduled out weeks in advance. So you do look at things like salooners, and we do look at things that like salinity, moon phases, stuff like that if we're planning out a trip. But generally on your day to day, we look at things like weather and salooners, and we know when the bite's going to be good and when it's not going to be good, and we have a general idea. But going fishing every day kind of allows us the latitude to kind of figure out, hey, this is what's good, this is what's not. We have a good grasp over the course of the last nearly century as a family owned and operated business to kind of get a grasp on when's good and when's not. So you can always just cheat and ask us, and I'll help you pick a good day. You can always text us at that number in the upper right hand corner before booking a trip, and we can help you pick a date out. I always tell people, if you're coming into town for a few days, shoot us a text message on your way into town. We can help you pick out the best day for fishing while you're in town. Let's see. I think we got time for one more question. What's with all these stars? So not really a good question to end on, but I'll answer it. Facebook released this update. So for content creators, which I guess we're considered now, basically for some of the larger Facebook pages, they released this thing called stars, and essentially it allows you down in the comment box to get these stars, which you purchase, and then once you purchase the stars, you can give them to your Facebook pages that you watch. So it really only has to do if you're watching on Facebook and if you're purchasing stars. And basically people purchase stars and then send them to their favorite Facebook pages to show support, and it gives us the ability to use those stars in funding our Facebook ad campaigns. So we do very targeted ad campaigns. We have a really cool marketing team that geofences these ad campaigns. So when someone's traveling in our area and their cell phone hits Facebook, we're able to geo market and geofence and IP target and all these crazy things that I don't understand, but our marketing team understands. So that way, basically, your stars help us gain more customers and stay in business and get more people out fishing. So appreciate your stars. Thank you, Karen, Zach, and Gabe for sending us some more. Really appreciate you, Gabe. I think you sent quite a few tonight. Thank you, buddy. So the stars are just a way to show support for us and our page, and I appreciate everybody doing that. Definitely don't have to, but I appreciate it. We can't end on that one. Let's see. A bunch of people sent their addresses that weren't winners. I love that. What's the best bait? Well, that's kind of a general question, because the best bait kind of changes with the trip that you're on. So it depends on the type of trip you're on. The best bait on a 5-hour is completely different from the best bait on a 39-hour. And if you're talking about the best bait inshore, it's completely different from the best bait offshore. So whoever asked that question as far as what is the best bait, if you could be a little bit more specific, I'd be more than happy to be a little bit more specific in my answer. With that, we are coming up on an hour and 15 minutes, and I need to get to bed. Been up since 3:30ish this morning. Tried to catch the Extreme trip before they left. It was Captain Rich's first day solo on the Flying Hub 2. He went out there and stroked them. Caught almost a limit of red snapper. He would have limited out on red snapper if people weren't throwing back red snapper, which also kind of makes me angry. High grading is so stupid, because they would have had a limit of red snapper. Everybody would have come back with a full limit of red snapper, but you had people throwing fish back in hopes of catching a bigger one, and that's a big gamble, because you might not catch a bigger one. A bite slowed down. They ended up not catching their limit because people were throwing fish back. And when you throw fish back, even if you get them up quickly, unhook them quickly, vent them quickly, or descend them quickly with your venting tools or descending devices, sometimes those fish don't survive. So high grading is like super stupid. Just fill your limit, catch your 2 red snapper, and then focus on other fish. There's so many other fish out there. So you can fill your 2 red snapper limit, and then you can start focusing on catching things like gag grouper, red grouper, mangrove snapper, and catch more fish instead of trying to catch 1 red snapper and then, oh, I'm not going to keep another red snapper until I catch a freaking monster trophy fish. And then I'm going to go home with 1 fish because I was holding out for a 25-pound red snapper that I'm not going to catch. It's stupid. High grading is stupid and, in my opinion, super unwise. You're out there to catch fish and have a good time doing it. So catch your 2 red snapper and then stop. I really, if it was up to me, I would say no high grading. You catch your first 2 fish, you throw them in the box, and that's the way I do it when I'm out there, and hopefully that's the way everybody will do it eventually, because I hate to see that on private boats, I hate to see it on charter boats, and I really hate to see it on my boats. So high grading is stupid. Stop doing it. Catch your 2 fish, throw them in the box, then switch gears and start targeting something else. And with that, enough of the venting tool and descending device. High horse. We're done with that tonight. Thanks, Joe, for the stars. Richard Blazik, Donovan Platt, David Watson, Donovan Platt again, Justin Bendis. Appreciate all the stars, guys. Let's go ahead and give away our free 39-hour fishing trip for 1 guest. We gave away our 5-hour half day for 2. We gave away our 10-hour all day for 2. Now it's time for our 39-hour trip for 1. Tonight, I think the venting tool thing scared people away a little bit. We only got up to about 500 live viewers last week. We were about 600. We were pretty strong last week, but I had fun tonight. Hopefully you did too. It's a tough day today, and I had fun relaxing with you guys and venting, if you will. Someone should go back through the show and count how many times I said it. All right, so 39-hour fishing trip for 1 guest coming at you. Bill Levert from Citrus Springs, another Florida local. I think Citrus Springs is in Florida. Sounds familiar. But Bill Levert, congrats on the free 39-hour trip for 1 person. Make sure to go ahead and text us your home address at that number in the upper right-hand corner to claim your free trip. The rest of you, hopefully we'll see you next week. Same channel, same bad show. Hopefully more venting tool drinking games next week. I had a lot of fun with you guys. Thanks for whoever came up with that drinking game. Definitely gonna have to use that. I'm gonna rewatch the show after this and start playing all over again. So someone cover for me at work tomorrow. Appreciate y'all watching. Hopefully we'll see you next week for another episode of our live stream show here at Hubbard's Marina. Remember, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too darn busy. Hopefully we'll see you all soon for some fishing fun at Hubbard's Marina on one of our many trips or private charters. And don't forget to check out our new online store. If you go to our website and go to hubbardsmarina.com, you can click store and click Marina Store. One of the biggest tools that's going to help you lower barotrauma effects and help you make sure more fish survive is using one of these hook extractors. We design these to get the hook out of the fish as quick as possible and spend as least time on the level 0 or sea level as possible. It gets the fish out, or gets the hook out quickly, gets the fish back in the water quickly. We've got our favorite fishing reels on our on our Marina store. We've got those custom rods. We've got our Hubbard's Marina shirts. We got tons of cool stuff. Our salinity gear. We've even got our saltwater hippie shirts in here. So really, really cool stuff on our online store, and more to come. We've got some really big news coming up this week. Some really, really big, exciting news that I'm very excited about, and been making me work my butt off lately. So stay tuned for that big news. We'll see you next week. Remember, again, if you're too busy to go fishing, or if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too busy. So hopefully we'll see you soon at Hubbard's Marina. Y'all have a good night, and tight lines.